You're sitting in your kitchen at midnight, staring at a massive stack of paperwork you just signed for a brand new HVAC system for your house. The salesman was just in your living room a few hours ago. He was pushy, he was fast, and now that he is gone, the cold reality of the huge interest rate you just agreed to is hitting you right in the chest. You won out. You've always heard a rumor that you've 3 days to cancel any contract you sign. You're frantically flipping through the pages right now, looking for a way out, wondering if you can just call the company first thing in the morning and undo the whole mess. We're going to break down exactly how that rumor works, because the truth might surprise you. In the legal world, there's a concept called the cooling-off period. A cooling-off period is a specific window of time where the law gives you the right to cancel a contract without paying a penalty. It's basically a legal do-over. It gives you a chance to step back, clear your head, and back out of an agreement if you realize you made a terrible mistake. But here's the massive catch that most regular folks don't understand. A general 3-day cooling-off period is largely a myth for most everyday purchases. A contract is a legally binding promise. Once you sign it, the law expects you to live up to your end of the bargain. The courts call this the freedom of contract, which just means that adults are free to make their own deals, and the government usually won't step in to save you from a bad bargain. If you walk into a dealership, buy a used truck, sign the papers, and drive it off the lot, you can't just bring it back 3 days later and say you changed your mind. The deal is done the second the ink hits the paper. The salesman doesn't have to take the truck back, and you're stuck with the monthly payments. So, if there's no universal 3-day rule, why does everyone swear the rule exists? Because the government did step in to protect people in a few very specific, very dangerous situations. Years ago, the federal government created a rule called the Cooling-Off Rule. This is a specific federal law that gives you exactly 3 business days to cancel a sale that happens away from the seller's normal place of business. Business days mean normal weekdays, automatically skipping weekends and national holidays. Imagine a high-pressure salesman knocks on your front door on a Saturday afternoon. He wants to sell you a ridiculously expensive vacuum cleaner or a set of solar panels. He sits in your living room, uses his fast-talking skills, and pressures you into signing a contract right then and there. Because he came into your home, the law recognizes that you're at a disadvantage. You didn't go shopping in a neutral store. You were ambushed in your own safe space. In that exact scenario, the cooling-off rule kicks in to protect you. The salesman is legally required to hand you 2 copies of a special cancellation form right there on the spot. You've until midnight of the 3rd business day to mail that form back and tear up the contract. If he fails to give you those forms, your right to cancel might actually be extended. Let's look at another very common example. You walk into a brand new gym on a Tuesday night. The membership counter is inside a commercial retail space, so you aren't in your home. You sign up for a heavy annual contract. Because you went to their store, the federal cooling-off law doesn't apply at all. However, almost every single state in the country has its own local laws that specifically govern health club memberships. Most states force gyms to include a mandatory cooling-off period right in the contract, often giving you 3 to 5 days to cancel without paying a massive penalty. The gym can't legally waive this right, and if they try to lock you into a year-long commitment the second you sign, they're breaking local state law. Salespeople for these properties are notorious for using extreme, high-pressure tactics to get you to sign a massive loan on the spot. Because the financial risk is so incredibly high, many states have passed laws that give you a much longer window to back out of a timeshare contract. In some states, you legally have up to 7 or even 10 days to cancel the timeshare agreement for absolutely any reason, with no questions asked. If you walk away and change your mind a week later, the law protects your right to rip up that contract, as long as you follow the exact cancellation steps written in your state statute. A statute is simply a formal written law passed by your state legislature. Why does the law treat these different situations so differently? It all comes down to fairness and preventing fraud. The government won't protect you from your own bad negotiating or a poor financial choice if you walk into a normal business. But the law will absolutely step in to protect you when a seller uses the advantage of being inside your private home, or when you're dealing with a notoriously corrupt industry like timeshares or gym memberships. The law recognizes that a fast-talking salesman can easily manipulate an ordinary person in their living room, so it gives you a legal escape hatch to slow down the process. But what happens if you actually miss the cancellation window? What if your 3 business days are completely up and you didn't mail the form? Now you're bound to the contract. Breaching a contract means failing to do what you legally promised to do in the agreement. If you breach, the other side can legally come after you for damages. Damages are the financial compensation awarded to someone to make up for the money they lost because you broke your promise. If you back out of a massive HVAC deal a week after signing, the finance company can legally demand the money, and they can severely damage your credit score if you refuse to pay. At that point, you aren't looking at a simple cancellation. You're staring down a potential financial disaster. There's one very rare exception where a judge might let you out of a contract even if the cooling-off period is long gone. This is called a rescission based on fraud. Rescission is a legal term for completely tearing up a contract and pretending it never existed. Fraud happens when someone intentionally lies to you about a massive, important fact just to trick you into signing the paperwork. If that salesman told you a massive, calculated lie about the interest rate or the equipment you were buying, a judge might completely throw the contract out. But proving fraud is extremely difficult. It isn't enough to say the salesman was pushy or that you felt rushed. You need hard evidence that he intentionally deceived you, which almost always requires hiring a skilled lawyer to fight for you in court. This is exactly why you have to act fast the second you realize you might have made a mistake. Don't wait around hoping the problem will just disappear on its own. If you signed something inside your house, look for the cancellation forms immediately. If you can't find them, read the contract to see if it lists a specific state law that gives you a right to cancel. If the contract was for a car at a dealership and you realize you can't afford the payments, you can't rely on a cooling-off period to save you. Your only real option is to try and negotiate with the dealer to see if they'll voluntarily agree to let you out of the deal, which is incredibly rare. When you're dealing with the harsh reality of a legally binding agreement, you need to know exactly how the law actually treats your specific situation. Remember, none of this is telling you exactly what to do about the paperwork sitting on your kitchen table right now. Every state has its own tricky variations, and every single contract has its own specific rules written into the fine print. If you're sitting there staring at a massive financial commitment and the cancellation window is closing, it's time to stop guessing and get professional help. You need a local attorney who understands your state laws to look at the actual document before you make a single wrong move. Have you ever been pressured into signing a massive contract in your own living room? And how did you get out of it? Tell me your story down in the comments. If this breakdown gave you the actual truth about the 3-day cancellation myth, please pass the video along to a buddy who might be losing sleep over a massive buyer's remorse mistake right now. Make sure you subscribe to Scribble Law so you always know the exact rules of the game before a fast-talking salesman tries to use the system against your wallet.